While the people of Gotham are powerless to stop me, Batman cannot match this sort of strength with anything. What's that? Gotham's wealthy elite will fall, Batman, no matter what you do. And there is a bomb. And the identity of the Trigger Man is a mystery. Let's see here. Not so hasty. My back. You all right back there? I'm fine. Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here, and today we are looking at the absolutely brand new Spin Master Crusader Batmobile. If this looks unfamiliar to you, that's because I never saw any kind of announcement for this, but it did pop up on Amazon for purchase just a couple of days ago, so I was sure to go ahead and grab one. As any longtime viewer of the channel knows, I am always interested in brand new Batmobiles from Spin Master, and of course this is no exception. This is in their 3 3/4 scale line of comic-based figures, and this appears to be kind of the new look that they're going for into the holiday season this year. Just be sure to stick with me as we look at this Batmobile and of course compare it to the many others that have come before. Be sure that if you haven't yet, you subscribe to the channel because I'm always doing new Spin Master Batman reviews, as well as lots of Masters of the Universe stuff. Also, be sure to like the video because that really does help our channel grow. With that out of the way, let's begin. Alright, first things first, we can see that there are some familiar attributes to the packaging that we've kind of grown to expect, I suppose. You can see this familiar art of Batman up here, which has been kind of the standard for 2023. We also have some artwork of the Batcave back there in the background, which is kind of cool. We see the Batmobile up there in like a CGI render. We have the accessory, and this is an open kind of box, so you know everything's just kind of out. And you can see the brand new style of Batman figure we have up there, which actually looks pretty neat. We can see the Batmobile displayed, and of course we have the Batman logo and the Crusader Batmobile title. We can see a cool little diorama they have set up with a slightly different looking Batman figure back there. They always change a little bit in production, it seems like. This one has more silver on it. And you can see that it shows you some of the features of the car. You can see that we do have a UPC or barcode right there for you. And on the back, it does talk about that there are some standees of the bad guys that you can cut out and you can use. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this thing out of the box. And in case you're curious, if you want a better look at the Batcave diorama once the Batmobile is removed, this is how it looks. And other than the villain standee assembly there with little cardboard cutouts, there is no assembly required. The only thing I literally had to do was take the little grappling hook and put it in the launcher, and we were done. Just a quick observation about the Spin Master Batman stuff. I'm so glad that it's continuing, and I've really enjoyed this stuff. As you guys know, I've been reviewing it for years here on the channel, like intermittently. And there just really isn't another toy line that makes me feel more like a kid than the Spin Master Batman stuff. It really does kind of just make me feel really young, and that's a great thing, and it's why I keep coming back to it. Alright, so let's talk about the Crusader Batmobile here. First of all, I just want to talk about the car itself. You know, Spin Master has done so many original designs now for Batmobiles, and I'm always curious where they're getting their inspiration from, and I always try to kind of reverse engineer where they might have gotten it. And to me, this looks like a mix of several different things. I think it sort of reminds me of the Batman v Superman Batmobile in a way, but it's a lot more comic book-esque. But the color, you know, it's kind of gunmetal. It sort of reminds me of the original Arkham Asylum Batmobile that you just like see parked. So that definitely puts me in mind of that. It also kind of reminds me in some ways in the cockpit of the New Adventures of Batman Batmobile. And I think once you put all those things in a blender, you sort of start to get what this thing may have come from. It's a very, I don't know, it also has kind of a modern Fortnite aesthetic, I guess. When I say that, what I mean is it has kind of a youthful edge to it, like energy, you know. From the front, you can see more what I mean about that Fortnite kind of influence because it's got that gold and that light blue. It just feels like modern, maybe younger kids' video game colors. I like that there is a Bat logo right there on the hood, which is something that is missing a lot these days in Batmobiles. I really love it when Batmobiles have fins on them. And so that's disappointed me in the last few years for some of the movie Batmobiles that we've seen because they always get away from the fins, and it bothers me. But here, it's got enough fins to make up for all those Batmobiles because we have fins in the front. We have the regular kind of, traditional fins on the side. We have fins on the rear, and we have fins along the cockpit there. We even have a center fin, so it's just full of them. And I really love that because it gives it an edge. It makes it seem spikier than it usually does. And it also just, it's just a good design aesthetic for a Batmobile. The jagged edges are all over the place with this thing. You have these little kind of vents right here. Even the top profile kind of has that, and even the top of the cockpit kind of has those jagged edges, almost like Batman's head right there. And down here, we have like the bottom of a Bat logo, where you would almost think that a battering ram would come out of. And in case you're curious, here is the bottom of the car, kind of some faux engine details. I'm always very impressed when they have anything down here. Kind of looks like a spinal column right here. From the back, I like how we almost have a tank guard or tread around the wheels. And there's even this little jail cell, which we'll get into a little bit later. So I think from all angles, this thing is really impressive looking. I really do like the plastic that they use for the cockpit, because it's kind of shiny, it's semi-translucent, and it's very blue. So it doesn't just fade in, to the rest of the car. There's even Bat logos down here on the sides, and the wheel wells are so cool. They have little Bat logos that you can see, almost like they're made out of steel all along there. And it's a lot of design work that they probably didn't have to do, but they did anyway. Even the tire treads here have kind of like bat wings on them. To me, it's obvious that a lot of tender love and care is put into these Batmobile designs that they do. And honestly, I think on top of this one being the more traditional Batmobile design that they've done so far as Spin Master, I also think it's the best one. It's just really cool looking, and I legit would love to see this design make it into a movie or a video game. I know it won't, but seriously, I love this thing. If this was the new Batmobile design for a movie, I would instantly say it was the best one since, the '89. Like, that's how cool it is. I just think it's great. I guess I'm always wanting a more fantasy Batmobile. Sue me, I like it to be whimsical. And before I show you the other features of the Batmobile, we'll just look at the figure really quickly. This appears to be the design aesthetic that they're going for this, I guess, like fall and holiday wave of Batman products. It's really nice looking. I think it's very much reminds me of like 0 Year artwork, where Batman has like the short sleeves, and they even went to the trouble to paint the flesh tone right there to emphasize that Batman's wearing like a short sleeve shirt and then the gauntlets. So it makes him look a lot more kind of outback, like tough. Like he's in some sort of survival deal, and he even has his grappling gun, or what I would assume is a grappling gun, down here just like on a holster on his legs. So that's something you don't see much, and that's just sculpted in. The belt is brown with a big gold buckle on the front. There's a little bit of a paint error on mine where you can see where a line has kind of went through the Bat logo there, but it's not bad, and it kind of adds to his rugged persona. He also has these blue eyes, which I think are a really cool change. On the back, you can see that the cape is actually really nice fabric. It's not that garbagey material that they used to use. So this Batman figure is a big win in my opinion, and it's super cool looking. Like, I love this design, I really do. We can compare it to the most recent Keaton Batman that they did for The Flash, and he's a little bit bigger than Keaton Batman. And just so you can see a quick comparison with the new Batman and some of the older ones, he is ever so slightly smaller in scale, but not enough to make a huge difference, and definitely these guys would still fit in the Batmobile. And here is Affleck Batman that they did for The Flash, and they're just about the same size, I think. Needless to say, either one of those figures could fit into this Batmobile as well. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and check out the cockpit. So once we flip this open, and I really do like the access to the cockpit because it's really easy, you just flip that open, and you have two sections. You have a section in the front here, and there really isn't anything. This is just a black void right there. So there isn't a steering column or anything like that, so that's disappointing. But the actual seat itself has some nice details in there, and I think that looks pretty good. Practically any of your 3 3/4 Batman figures can fit in there. I'll show you real quick what it looks like to put the included figure there. We just throw him in, And there is Batman in the cockpit. But there is kind of a barrier in there that's stopping his feet. As you can see, you know, even me trying to move him, that's as far as he goes. So that little barrier is in there, I guess, to keep the figure from like sliding down into like the abyss down here. You close that up, you can sort of see Batman in the front. At least I can. It's very hard to see it on camera. It's a very, yeah, there is kind of a side profile. This is not the most translucent, but you can still, you know, sort of make him out in there. The interesting thing that we should probably try is, could you get something larger than 3 3/4 in there? Like, say, for instance, a McFarlane version of the Superpowers figures. Well, this is a 5-inch figure, so we'll see. If you are going by the limit that they have in there, that's how far it can go, so it's not going to work. But you can actually get his legs over that little barrier I was talking about to bring him down even further. It's kind of like a little cheat you can do, and I don't know if they built that in as a way to do that or what. So I can dig him down a little bit like that, and will it close? It doesn't want to close too much, like I can feel it pressing on the ears, but if you kind of work with him a little bit, it almost works. So this is, I think he looks good standing beside of it. It doesn't look half bad, but it's definitely designed for 3 3/4. Now, you may have noticed that there is another section back there. That is what I presume to be a little jail, and we can open it up, and it actually props right up there if you want. And it actually looks pretty nice in there. They have a little grate and things, and some fair little details, so I think that's pretty cool. Let's just see how many figures can fit in here. Or you could probably just put a bunch of Batman sidekicks in there, although it would look hilarious because it was like, you know, looks like he's in prison. All right, so just to show you that this isn't necessarily like universal, the biggest villain figure they've made so far in terms of just the regular scale for the line is Bane. You can't really put something like him in there comfortably. I guess you could try to like fold him up a little bit and see what you can do that way. Let's see. Well, what do you know? You actually can kind of just stuff him back there. Pretty sure Batman's violating some of Bane's rights, but you know, he can go back there, and it's kind of amazing that you could even fit a figure this large in there. What about a weird one-off figure like Clayface, who's permanently in like a straddling position? No, he's just too weird. He's like a big wide chunk of plastic. And when Batman's sidekicks act up and don't follow his orders, sorry Dick, you're going in the tank. Too bad for Barb. Sorry, Batwoman. And Jason, how dare you. And enough room for every Robin ever. And just so you know, of course, you can fit in the other Batmen into the cockpit, and they are definitely good looks with this Batmobile. The more recent armored Batman here looks particularly good with this thing, actually. And it does almost visually seem to kind of match this aesthetic right here. One of the only funny quality things I found with the car is that this particular one of the fins is kind of warped, and of course I can fix that with some heat and cold water, but definitely something you might see throughout the review as this is drooping down. It's just something I haven't fixed yet. I'm going to demonstrate the action feature. You can see that you just kind of load this harpoon in here. They were kind enough to include some targets for target practice. So with the villain standees that it comes with, let me just show you how to fold these real quick, because it is a little confusing at first. What you do is you fold this part forward. This is kind of the anchor that way. And then this part you fold in, and it just pops through that little perforation there. And there you go. He's ready to stand up. However, I don't think that they hold very well. They don't want to stay very straight up. It's kind of, they're sort of strange, but I suppose they wanted them to collapse pretty easy with the missile. As you can see, Mr. Freeze there like leans back. Let's see if you can even hit this, because this is kind of angled upwards, and there's no changing the angle of the launch. See, it flew right over. Since the arc of this harpoon is like up, this thing is almost built for like really long range, so I think you would have to be really far off for this to like travel upwards then back down with gravity. But it comes out so fast that this would have to be really far away. For me, the most logical thing to do, and I think the way that younger collectors that would even care about these little standees The thing that they would probably do is just point it down right at it like this, and boom. Yep, he's taken care of. All right, and we'll definitely do some comparisons. Here it is with the first Batmobile sculpt that Spin Master did for the comic line. This was of course inspired by the Batman White Knight storyline, and they're just about the same length and the same width, but this is taller, so it feels more substantial, and it's a lot more traditional looking. Of course, this is the recolor of that Batmobile they did for the Bat-Tech line. Here is the actual Bat-Tech Batmobile, the one that transformed and all of that. This is pretty cool. It's really tall, but once again, it's practically the same width and length. And that's something a lot of these have in common, so they can be compatible with like the Batmobile and the different platforms they have for them. But once you transform it, it does seem to make it a lot larger than this one. A real anomaly for the Spin Master 3 3/4 stuff was the Batman Batmobile, just because of what an insane value it was, and you know, opening doors and things like that, lights and sounds. So it's a very impressive car. It is funny how it ends up being almost the exact same size in every metric this way. It's practically the same height. This is a little taller. Of course, this is a two-seater, which once again makes it, you know, a little different. And here's an interesting comparison. This is with the brand new '89 Batmobile that Spin Master did for the Flash toy line. I was pretty disappointed in this one actually, and you might have seen my review, and not sure everybody agreed with me on that, but I really did feel like that this was undersized, that it just kind of felt like it wasn't as grandiose as it could have been or it should have been. Compared to this, it definitely reinforces my feelings that I had, because this just should have been bigger. And even though it's almost the same length, it's still kind of short if you don't include the fins back there. It's still really thin, it's not very wide, and it's just not very tall, so it ends up feeling less substantial than it should have. That's right, Keaton may be trading in the classic, y'all. One thing I hadn't mentioned so far, and I really should, is that this was only $20 and change on Amazon. And to me, that is a huge win of a price. I mean, I was very impressed by that. I don't know if I've just been desensitized by horrible toy prices that we see these days or what, but I think that's a great deal for what you're getting here. Basically, you're getting a Batman figure that's typically, you know, even though he doesn't include accessories or anything like that, typically, you know, $7, $8 or so. And you get a really nice vehicle for the approximately maybe like 12 bucks after that. And I don't know if there's hardly any company that's offering that kind of deal. So I have to say, I think that this is a big win. It's also not hurting anything that this is probably the best design that Spin Master has come up with in terms of an original design for a Batmobile. It's just got all the features that I like, with all of the cool scallops and, you know, the different fins and all of that, and it just looks really angular and dynamic, like this big roadster. And I think it has the kind of visual aesthetic that modern kids will really like, while still looking like classic comic book Batmobiles, especially some of them, you know, that was in the latter 90s and things. It definitely has that feel to it. It is a very edgy Batmobile, and still colorful enough though, and interesting enough, that I think it's going to grab any kid's attention. So yeah, huge win on this one, huge win. Definitely go out and grab it if you can. I have a feeling, you know, it's going to be in stores, of course, for their big holiday push item, or one of their holiday push items. There was some interesting Spin Master stuff that was leaked a little while back, and I'm really looking forward to all that stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what all gets released. All right, friends, don't forget to let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this. Are you agreeing with me that it's probably the best original Batmobile design that they've done so far in this scale? I would really love to see the kind of 12-inch version of this. And when I say 12-inch version, we all know what that means. Those of us who are familiar with Spin Master, usually that means a car that's the perfect scale for a 6-inch Batman. So I would really love to see that, and hopefully that is something that we get from Costco or something like that later on this year. But let me know down in the comments what you think. And with all that out of the way, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out. The Trigger Man is a mystery.